Now, for the endogenous pathway, it resembles the exogenous pathway. Okay, exogenous pathway, especially in the earlier stage. But unlike the episodic production of chylomicrons, okay, unlike the exogenous pathway where there is episodic, where there is increased amount of chylomicrons in circulation here about there. So during VLDA circulation, triglycerides are metabolized by lipoprotein lipase. The same process that happened there. So this one will give some of it ApoC2 HDL, and the HDL would also give some ApoC2 to VLDA. Okay, so when that happens, the ApoC2 that has been received here will move on to activate or stimulate lipoprotein lipase. Okay, so lipoprotein lipase will come to circulation and the breakdown will occur. So when there is breakdown of triglyceride, like we spoke about earlier, okay, the triglyceride, we are going to get free fatty acid and glycerol. The same process happens. Okay, the fatty acid are transported to the muscles and the tissues, okay, and they will use it up. Okay, then what happens? Okay, so once the core is depleted, earth cat will come in. The earth cat will come in, lecithin cholesterol isotransferase will esterify the free cholesterol from tissues, okay, and then for enzyme 2 will come in to transport it into, the core, okay, the core. So as for chylomicrons, the VLDL free cholesterol is taken up by HDL, which is esterified by cholesterol ester along. Now gradually all of the ApoC2 and some of the ApoE are returned to HDL. Okay, so remember that all of the ApoC2 and E will return back to HDL. So after the last of the ApoC2 has returned to HDL, now remember in the exogenous pathway we said after the last ApoC2 has returned to HDL, the product is known as what? Chylomicron remnants. But here, after the last ApoC2 has returned to HDL, the remaining particles are known as IDL. In endogenous pathway, after the last ApoC2, okay, so after the esterification process of everything, whilst they will be returning back of apolipoproteins to the owner HDL. So after the last ApoC2 has returned to the HDL, we don't get, so IDL results, okay, when the last ApoC2 has returned to HDL. Okay, so here to IDL are smaller, okay, than VLDL. Okay, so IDL are very rapidly cleared, therefore they are not detected in normal plasma. That is why in most labs we don't run tests for IDL, okay, because they are rapidly cleared from circulation. Okay, so if you even detect them, if you even perform some tests for them, you won't get the actual value because they are rapidly cleared from circulation. Okay, so they are undetected in normal plasma. So more than half of the IDA is taken up by the action of hepatic triglyceride receptor. So more than half, okay, is taken up by hepatic triglyceride receptor. It's very, very important. And that receptor, what it does is that it recognizes ApoB100. Okay, ApoB100. The HD, once some are taken up by the hepatic triglyceride receptor, the remaining, okay, the rest is converted. The rest is converted to LDL. Okay, so you can see this one here. So after hepatic triglyceride receptor has taken, remaining, those that remain in circulation will be converted to HDL. You can see that one here. So from VLDL to HDL to LDL. This is all happening in the endogenous pathway. So LDL is what we get after half of the IDL is taken up by the hepatic triglyceride receptor. The remaining, or the amount that will remain in circulation, will be converted to LDL, low density lipoprotein. Okay, low density lipoprotein. It is very, very, very important. So after the loss of ApoE is returned to HDL, the remaining particles are known as what? LDL. Okay, so after the loss of ApoE has returned to HDL, so here on the IDL there are some few. You see, the predominant apolipoproteins is ApoB100 and ApoE, but then all the ApoE will be transferred to HDL. So after the last one has been transferred to HDL, this one is no longer IDL but becomes LDL. Okay, so remember that LDL is very smaller as compared to IDL. Okay, the permanent structure protein is ApoB100, so don't forget that. On LDL, the permanent structure protein is ApoB100, which is the only protein in LDL. It has a half-life of about 3 days. Okay, they deliver cholesterol to peripheral tissues and eventually taken up by the LDL receptor, or the receptor we call the macrophage scavenger receptor. Okay, so take note of that. In circulation, okay, once VLDL is in circulation, HDL will appear, give some ApoC to this. ApoC will activate LDL. LDL will break down triglyceride to free fatty acid and glycerol. The free fatty acid will be taken up by muscles, tissues, and liver. Okay, now once it happens, the core will be depleted, and so free cholesterol from tissues will be esterified by lecithin cholesterol isotransferase FCAT. After the esterification, okay, to be transferred into the VLDL by the CEPT, cholesterol isotransfer protein. Okay, so once it happens, okay, this now changes. So there will be transferring of ApoC to back to HDL. So once the last ApoC2 has been transferred to HDL, this VLDL change to IDL. Okay, very, very important. So we said that about half of the LDL is also taken up by hepatic triglyceride receptor. Okay, so once half of this is taken up by the hepatic triglyceride receptor, there are some ApoE on this. Okay, now the ApoE will be given back to HDL. So once the last ApoE is given back to HDL, this IDL is also converted to LDL, low density lipoprotein, which is very smaller than this. Okay, low density lipoproteins. And as time goes on, this low density lipoprotein will be cleared from circulation by the macrophage scavenger receptor at high LDL levels. Very, very, very important.